Hi, my name is Scott Triple. I'm with Western Star Trucks North Limited, and I'm with tech support at our dealership. And I'm going to talk about 5700, the left steering wheel controls, which controls our ICU and how we want it to display things. If I use the up and down arrows, you can see I have now changed the display to parked menu. The parked menu are things you can do only when the truck is parked. So what that means is when I press OK, I can look at trip info is the first thing. This is where you reset your trip. So if you're going to log fuel and mileage, that's what that is for. Fuel information, that's going to tell me how much fuel I've used and the average and our idle amounts of fuel. That idle amounts of fuel is a good tool to measure how much money you can save just by keeping the engine off. Engine info, so that gives us kilometers or hours and engine liters in fuel, amount of fuel, and then PTO fuel and PTO hours. Back to the menu, so the next one I'm going to pick is diagnostics. So if you get a check engine lamp or a check transmission lamp, you can click on there and get the actual code off of there, and it'll give you a code SBN number and an FMI, which is what, if you were to call our dealership, we would need as tech support to help you. And it does give a description of what's going on as well. There are no codes in this one right now. Service, this is where you enable or disable a service indicator. It's going to tell you oil change service information. Settings, this is where it gets a little bit deeper. So display, we can set the brightness of the display. Usually in the middle is, pardon me, I've got to use up and down arrows. It's just going to change how dark that LCD is. And it has the biggest difference when you're in night mode. I'm going to demonstrate that. So display light is off or on. I typically like it on due to sun conditions. So I've turned this one on. It was off. Night mode is very interesting. You can set it to auto. It's going to use a light sensor to change the display. Or on is going to turn it dark like that, which will make it easier in some sun conditions. Auto I like. I'm going to choose that, and I'll show you what, when you choose auto, when I turn on the headlamps is when it's going to change to that darker display, which is easier on the eyes at nighttime. So you can have it do auto or have it on all the time. I'm going to go back one more. So under display we got gauge select. Button. So I can choose this portion of the screen to read all of these, all this information. Axle temp, I put an X in there, air pressures, depth level. We're just going to turn them all on. So engine oil temp was on, trans oil temp, turbo pressure, voltage. So those are the only ones I can choose. And then if I keep going back, so here's where it displays those gauges. There's my battery voltage. There's my coolant temperature and turbo pressure. And you can change this to read imperial as well, so that it's in pressure and not kPa. There's my DEF fluid. This is my oil temperature. Now I got my axle temperatures. This is really easy to read because it is in a digital format versus the gauge. This truck does have gauges as well. And then we go back into some trip information. And go back to the park menu here. So we were on, sorry, I just made a mistake here. There, settings. So we did gauge select, language, so it can change whatever language you're. I'm not going to mess with that. Temperature warning, we can toggle that on or off. So that's going to give you a temperature warning for oil or coolant temp. I think it's smart to have it on. And then the time, you can set your time zones. You can set daylight saving times. You can set the format, 24 or 12 hour. Units, that's where it changes from imperial to metric, whatever you decide. And then our ICU information, this is just the part number and software that's in it. Not something that you use very often. And that's it.